What's up, Michigan fans? Welcome back to the Maize and Bluebeard podcast, where we talk all things Michigan, football, basketball, and all other sports, because we love all our Michigan Wolverines. I'm Chris. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk a little Michigan athletics with moi. We got a lot to get to, as you can see here. This is what we're going to talk about. We're, of course, going to recap Michigan's frustratingly big win against Iowa, and offensive line coach for the Michigan Wolverine football team, Jim Harding, was in the trenches, not on the trenches, in the trenches with Jon Jansen. Fantastic podcast. He's killing it. But Jim Harding was on there, and we're going to talk about all what he had to say. He had some interesting things to say that got me pretty pumped, and some just really cool things. We'll talk about that. And we're going to update you on recruiting, what's going on in other sports. As we enter the end of the week, we'll look at what happened during the week, look ahead to what's this weekend, and of course, reveal the results to 2 question of the days, because I did not do a video yesterday morning. I did do a live stream following the Michigan basketball game, but I did not do a video. I apologize. So we get 2 question of the day results to reveal and give you my thoughts on. Anyway, all that and more on this episode of the Maize and Bluebeard podcast. Let's go blue, and let's get to it. Michigan football offensive line coach Jim Harding, highly thought of, one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coaches in all the nation, in all the land, was on In the Trenches with Jon Jansen recently, and he had a lot of awesome things to say. We're going to break it down. He talked about some players that have stood out to him. He talked about how it's been since he got there. He'll talk about what he wants to improve on, which was cool to see a coach like reflect and be like, I got to do a little better with this. That was cool. And then we'll talk about some little nugget that got me pretty excited. We'll talk about that as well. Just an awesome dude. So, he started off in the interview. I'll give you some verbatim that he said, but I'll also just kind of share my thoughts along the way as well. But he talked about just how he's really been impressed with the work ethic of the guys, how a lot of them just really just want to go, and he doesn't have to drag them into meetings and drag them to workouts. They're excited. They want to get into it. They want to do more and more and learn and dive into everything. And he was really impressed by that, and he loves it. He talked about how, there's a time to rest your body, but he'd take guys like that any day who are gung-ho and getting after it more so than the guys that he's got to drag through. So that was really good to hear. It's always good to hear at this time of year when we're not into spring practice and everything yet, that guys are just all in and they're excited and they want to do as much as they can. That's fantastic to hear. Especially he singled out the 3 leaders so far, Andrew Sprague, Jake Guanera, Blake Frazier. All of those guys being guys that really, but everybody. And the cool thing about him was that he was able to retain Sprague and Guanera because, Texas really came after Sprague and had him a pretty good offer. And I thought he was going to go, but Harding was able to convince him to stay, which was pretty awesome. And bringing back Guanera, who was just a stud at center, was awesome. So let me tell you some of the things that he said. All right. Like I said, he talked about how they were high character, smart, intelligent, hardworking, just ready to go and learn more. And what else can they do? That's fantastic. He's been impressed with them. Let's see. He said that he's impressed with all that, but right now what he can't really measure is their physicality and toughness because they're not practicing. He can't see them on the field. He said that's the next step when they get the pads on. He wants to figure out who the alpha dogs in the room are. I love the way that he talks. The guys that are going to set the tone for the offensive line itself and the offense as a whole. But he said he's pleased with what he's seen so far. He loves that there's the continuity up front and there'll be a chemistry. And he's going to prioritize that more and more. And this was where he talked kind of about what he feels like he's going to start doing better, was that early on he got there. It's a whirlwind. He's trying to make sure guys stay. And then, here's the playbook. This is our offense we're going to run. I want you to learn it. And trying to learn all this stuff, a new place, all these guys. And he said that now he's starting to make sure that they do things together to build camaraderie, and that he gets to know them better. And that's something he feels like he didn't have as much time for in that first, in the first few weeks when he first came in. But that's okay, because he rocked it out, keeping those guys there, and he's been recruiting like a madman. But I thought that was cool, because he mentioned that not only does he want to see growth from the team, but he wants to see growth from himself. So he asked the players, how do you feel about how things have been going these first 7 weeks? Do you have any pointers? Is there anything you think we could improve? And I think that's really cool, that a coach is doing that. And, he talked about how he asked the 3 players I talked about, Andrew Sprague, Jake Guanera, Blake Frazier. And they just had said, like, everything's going great, but yeah, let's make sure that we take time to, talk about life and build, a relationship with each other and get to know each other and hang out outside of football. So that was cool that he took their feedback, and he's excited to do that. So then, what he talked about next is what I think is pretty cool. So he talked about goals for for spring practices. And he said he'd like to establish a starting 5 where you feel good that when you go into fall camp, those are the guys that are working together immediately from day one. Now, we do have a couple guys out that may factor into that starting 5, but we had typically travel 11, so you're looking for the top 5. Now, here's what he said that I think is really cool. He said, we do play 6 offensive linemen quite a bit, so we call that 6th guy the RHINO. First of all, that's just cool, but also, if Babaloa is healthy, there's this thing. Oh, where does he fit in? How does he play? Well, now all of a sudden you find out in a lot of their offense, they have 6 offensive linemen, and that 6th guy is very important. He's called a RHINO. That takes away a lot of the concern over how are they going to get all these guys into the game. So that's awesome to hear. And then he talked about you're looking for 1 or 2 of those guys. So, they've got a lot of good depth. So it's pretty exciting to think some of these younger guys or guys that might not make the starting 5 still could have a chance to be a big part of the rotation. And then he talked about depth at the center position. The only guy that snapped in a game so far has been Jake, so we've got to have some depth there. And someone I really like for that spot is their transfer, and that is Houston Quahana Torres. I love him, from Nebraska, and he could play guard, but I think he's really a good center, and I think he's going to be great depth there. So keep an eye on that. Since he's looking for that, I want to see how Quahana Torres does. All right. And then he said, and then really I'm looking for that mindset, that competitive fire that's got to get established in the spring. There's a fine line. You can't do everything over the top against the defense because they're your teammates in spring practice. But you also want to hold your ground and not back down to anything. The defensive linemen will shove, they'll push until you stick up for yourself or maybe hit a ball carrier in the back. They'll do it again until you go over there and remedy it as an offensive line. So that kind of mindset would be the other thing. But really, establish top 5, get the RHINO established, get the center depth established, and then just having that physicality and nastiness in the offensive line. Want to develop that. Get that physicality, toughness, and that nastiness. That's what I'm talking about. Come on, that doesn't get you pumped? Woo! It gets me pumped. I'm excited. That's what we want from our offensive line. Like, we saw so much under Sherman Moore, the talent they had, but man, they're just, sometimes they would look so good, and then other times they just looked like they got pushed around, and that was, I feel like, what was lacking with the offensive line. The talent was there, but they would play really good teams, and they would get pushed around at times because they lacked that fire, that word I couldn't think of, but it was nastiness, and I love hearing him say that. That's what we need. You want an offensive line that's just going to maul people and get up there, fire off the ball, and just be nasty. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm excited. So that was a great interview. It's linked down below. Scroll down through the description, and you'll see it'll take you to the Michigan website that has all their podcasts in the trenches, and you can listen to the Jim Harding one there, or check out all the other ones. He's done ones with, Jason Beck. He's done one with Jim Harding. Coy Detmer Jr. He's done one with Jay Hill. He's done a bunch of them, so check those out. He's doing a great job. But yeah, I'm excited about this offensive line. I love hearing about the RHINO position, that you can get a sixth lineman involved, because they have quite a few linemen that I want to see play. So I'm just excited. I'm really pumped about this offensive line. I can't wait to see how the spring game goes and spring practices go and hear all about it. And I will report it to you as it comes in. But get pumped. Go listen to that interview. Jim Harding is the man. I'm even more excited now to see what he does with this offense. Michigan Wolverines basketball team defeated the Iowa Hawkeyes at Iowa tonight, or at Iowa last night, by a score of 71-68. It was a frustrating defensive battle for Michigan. They got out to a 10-point lead at one point, but they could just never quite bury Iowa, and they held on at the end and won. They made some great plays down the stretch. But this was a tough game. This was a hard game. If you saw my short before the game that I posted, I mentioned that they needed to still play their game and not get stuck trying to do too much or try to do more than their role, since they're trying to figure out how to move on and find a new normal without LJ Kaysen, their star backup point guard, who of course was injured in the Illinois game, lost for the season to an ACL injury. And they're not going to be able to replace him. He's a one-of-a-kind player. You're not going to just not miss a step, but you're going to have to find a way to replace his points and find a way to get a spark when things aren't going well for Elliot Cadeau or for the starters on offense. And tonight they did not find that. It did not go well. They had 18 turnovers, 12 in the first half, 6 in the second half, so they cleaned it up a little bit after halftime. But if you didn't watch the game, or if you just watch bits and pieces, a lot of that was due to Iowa's defense. Iowa is ranked number 1 in defense in the Big Ten. Yes, are there other teams in the country that could be better defensively than Iowa? Yes, but Iowa is a very good defensive team. They don't have a ton of offense, or they could be a really scary team, but they're well coached and they know how to play defense tight, in your face, be handsy, body check you, and they will do stuff and see how long they can get away with it. And if the referees are calling it right away, they back off a little and maybe you can run your offense easier. But if they don't call it, they're going to keep grabbing you on screens. They're going to keep grabbing you when you try to back them down. They're going to keep swatting at the ball, hitting your hands and your arms if they're getting away with it. And that's just because they're well coached and they're good at it. And they go all in. They're bought in. I mean, the way they rotate, Michigan never seemed to be able to get some wide open shots or wide open threes. So they didn't shoot as many threes. They only shot 12. And it was tough, and it frustrated them. It frustrated me to watch it, let alone them playing it. And it got them off their game, and they got a little willy-nilly with the basketball, just whoop, 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 throwing it around like crazy, not crisp passing. They dribbled around too much because nobody was open. And I don't know if it was Iowa's defense just really threw them off guard. And I don't know if I'm sure you think, oh, well, now that's on tape, other teams will try to do it. I don't know if everybody has the buy-in that Iowa has to play defense like that. And I don't know if everyone will get away with playing defense like that, because Iowa's done it all year. So they're coached on how to do it, to try to be sneaky and get away with things. I don't know if every other team can play that handsy and get away with it when that's not what they normally do. But anyway, Iowa's defense affected Michigan's offense, but Michigan's defense was very good. They held Sturtz, Iowa's star guard, to not a great shooting night, and that helped out Michigan a lot. Their defense won them this game, especially down the stretch. Roddy Gale Jr. had a couple of great defensive plays down the stretch. One where he blocked a shot and got the rebound, and then the next possession, he got his body in front of a driving guard so that it wasn't a foul, and then as he's kind of runs into his body, gets knocked back, and as he's getting knocked back, he swipes the ball out of the offensive player's hand, and it hits his leg and goes out of bounds. Michigan ball, huge play. Roddy Gale didn't score a bunch of points, but man, his defense and energy were huge, especially down the stretch. But Yaxel led us with 16 points, and Moritz Johnson Jr., Ade Mara had 14, Cadeau had 11, and then nobody else really did a ton else. McKinney brought the ball the court sometimes. He tried to generate some offense, but nobody's casing, and he he did have a couple of nice shots that he had, but he didn't have the best game. Burnett really needs to step up. He did not have a great game either. He only had a few points. And he's shown what he can do. He really needs to step up. We need him to score more. Cheddar continues to struggle on the offensive end. So besides, our 4 regular starters, we didn't get a lot of offense, and that's going to have to change. Well, now we'll see against Michigan State. They play them Sunday afternoon. If Michigan looks like this again, because Michigan State isn't a slouch defensively, but they're not Iowa. If Michigan struggles again, we'll know that we have a problem. But if Michigan is able to turn around and the offense looks much better and they move much better, more like what we're used to seeing, then we can just chalk it up to Iowa as a really good defensive team, and they had a great night and a great game plan. But we shall see. The refereeing was frustrating to watch just because of how Iowa plays defense, and you're not going to get they're going to get more fouls called on them always because of how they play defense. But man, there's just some series that was just so maddening. Like I talked about in the live post game show. Check that out if you haven't yet. But the one I can let a lot. I love defense in football and basketball. So I applaud Iowa. I think it was awesome, their defensive performance. And when you're well coached and you know what you're doing and you've done it all year, you're going to get away with some things. So yeah, there were some plays where I'm like, I think that was a foul, but I'm not going to complain. It is what it is. You find a way to win. But there was one series that just did irk me a lot. Iowa had the ball. Sturtz drove to the lane, or no, he did a backdoor cut behind Cheddar. Cheddar got beat. They passed him the ball, and Cheddar fouled him immediately so that he wouldn't score. He'd have to go to the line and shoot 2 free throws to earn it. But Sturtz catches it, gets fouled, and then he runs forward and lays it in, and they call it a continuous a foul in the motion of shooting, and he gets an and one and ends up a 3-point play. Now that was frustrating enough, but it's like, whatever, that's their star. He's going to get a favorable call. That's normal. It happens. Whatever. Well, then Michigan goes the other way, the very next possession, and Yaxel Lindenborg, our star of a top 3 team, one of the best players in the nation, drives into a guy's chest and shoots it right after he drives into his chest, like immediately, and makes it. You think, oh, good, we got an and one. That'll even it out. Nope, they call off the shot, and it doesn't count as an and one. I mean, that to me was a frustrating thing. Like, I don't get why Yaxel doesn't get the calls like that. But he started getting calls because he started just plowing into guys to get calls, and that's why they missed case on this game, because that's what you need to do with a team that's playing defense like that, because their fouls are going to be up because they're handsy and doing a lot of body checking and all that kind of stuff and grabbing, and eventually their fouls are going to go up. But if you can drive at them and get those fouls escalated quicker where you get in the bonus, they got to back off because they don't want to give you free points. And he started doing that, and I think that helped down the stretch. But Kaysen would have done it the whole game, and he would have been huge in this game, and that's why it sucks that we don't have him. There's no way around it. But you got to stay positive. You got to trust that this team is going to figure it out. Dusty May will figure it out, so that when they do play another team that good defensively, they're not going to get in trouble. But something this team has that no other team that I've seen has is how close-knit they are. When you take the combination of their talent, their depth of talent, they used to have a 9-man bench. Now they have an 8, so they have a little depth. They're going to play a little more minutes. They might get a little more tired. So we don't have the general depth we used to have, but they still have talent depth. Like, their bench is still full of guys that could start for other teams in the country. So when you combine that much talent with just a love for each other, where they play close-knit, they trust each other, they play well together, when you combine those things, it can take you very far, and Michigan will always have that working in their favor, and that's why I think you see them in these close games. Things are going bad, that's getting ugly. A lot of teams we've seen in the past at Michigan would have lost a game like this, but they don't get rattled. I mean, they do when they're throwing the ball around and turning it over 18 times. But overall, they don't give up on a game. They don't get rattled. And in the end, they know that if they stick together, they believe in one another, they have a chance to grind it out and win. And that's just what they did. So at the end of the day, they won. Just win, baby. And they moved to 28-2? Yes, 28-2, 18-1 in the Big Ten, 11-0 on the road, a perfect undefeated record on the road in Big Ten play, which is insane. We know how hard it is to win in the Big Ten on the road. Michigan went undefeated on the road. Friggin' awesome. So we'll see how things go. Dusty May is going to be back to the drawing board. They're going to have to play better offensively against Michigan State and in both tournaments if they expect to win anything. But overall, they won. They stuck together and they got it done. So for anybody that's going to question this team and say they don't have a chance now, all our rival fans, you know what we can tell them? Bet. Because this team plays for each other. They've got a brilliant head coach who's great at strategy. They're going to figure it out, and we're going to have a great end to the season. Are you with me? Go Blue! Now for some recruiting news. Let's get you caught up on a couple things. First of all, a tight end recruit that I really love, Christian Hanshaw, said some good things about Michigan. He sees Michigan as special, top tier, a blue blood. He is impressed with the university as a whole. He also has a connection with Kyle Whittingham. His dad played with Kyle Whittingham at BYU, which is pretty awesome. But he is, right now he's a 3-star for 2027, but I do think he has a chance to move up because he is, two things you really want in a tight end, especially at Michigan. He is athletic. He is very good at catching, running routes, all those things, but also he is a great blocker. He's not afraid to block. He'll get his hands dirty and he'll be, aggressive and get in there and block. And I love that about him. 6'5", 230 pounds, and he's still growing. He's got another year to play and grow. He's from Utah, the state of Utah, so that helps too, with knowing Kyle Whittingham and seeing what he did in that state. But I really like him a lot. And he is just impressed with Michigan. He said he hasn't made any decisions, anything like that, but he's coming April 11th for a visit. Hopefully it goes great, and it'll really help him want to move Michigan up his list. So he's one to keep an eye on. Ethan McDowell from the Wolverine, who's doing a great job with all his recruiting reports and stuff. He's come in recently. He's doing awesome. Love his stuff. But he put out his kind of projections for who Michigan would sign defensive back wise. And if they got these guys, it'd be pretty awesome because they're some of my favorite ones. So I've talked about Daryl Madison before. I just talked about him in a recent video. Great safety, a 3-star, but I think he could be a 4-star because he's rising quickly, and I think he's going to be great. Another really good one is Tristan Hughes, who's a rival 300 at top safety. He looks really good. If they got those two, that would be awesome. And then these next two are two of my favorite recruits of all. Bodie Sparrow, I love his name, but I also love how versatile, athletic he is, great receiver and defensive back. If they got him, that would be awesome. And of course, one that we all want them to get, Charles Woodson Jr., fantastic. If they got these four, holy smokes, that would be an amazing get. So I hope Ethan's right, because that would be a great get. And throw in Marquise Ray, Marcus Ray's son. We want to have him too. All right, now it's time to talk about some other sports at the University of Michigan. First, some bummer news. Michigan hockey will not be the regular season Big Ten champs. They did hold first place, but they do not play this weekend. They just have an exhibition game. So they had to hope that Minnesota, who's not the best, would somehow be able to upset Michigan State 2 times. But they did not, even once. Michigan State blew them out today. So Michigan State wins the regular season Big Ten championship in ice hockey. Congrats to them. They're a good team. You got to give it to them. But Michigan will be able to get their revenge in the Big Ten tournament. And then, of course, in the NCAA tournament after that. So keep an eye out for Michigan hockey. Support them. Let's see, the Big Ten tournament. They did awesome in their exhibition game that they had against Simon Fraser. They whooped some butt. But the Big Ten tournament starts March 11th. So I'll talk about that more next week when it gets closer and everything's decided and scheduled and all that stuff. But so for now, just enjoy a great season they had. and get ready for the Big Ten tournament next week. Michigan baseball has played a couple games since the last time we talked about them. They played a couple games this week. First, they fell to Cal State Northridge 9-8 in a tough loss. Michigan put up a 6 spot in the third inning, and you thought, oh, here we go. And then they gave up 5 in the bottom of the sixth. So it was just a back and forth, neck and neck game, and they were not able to pull it out. But then they started their weekend series with Pepperdine, and Thursday night they were victorious. They won 17-4. They put up a 9 spot in the fourth inning. Just a fantastic offensive performance. Dane Morrow went 3 for 3, including 2 home runs, and get this, they were his first 2 career home runs. Pretty awesome for him. Evan Hager hit his first career home run, and Noah Miller had his first hit of the season. 9 different Wolverines recorded a hit, and 10 scored. So a great start to that series. Right now, Michigan sits at 7-5, and they will continue their series against Pepperdine. Their next game will be Friday early evening. It's 1:30 Pacific time, so they'll play at 5:30. It's going to be on ESPN Plus, so if you have that, watch a little Big Ten baseball, a little Michigan baseball at 5:30. Michigan women's basketball is set to tip off the Big Ten tournament. It'll be on the Big Ten Network tonight at 9 p.m., so check that out. Support our women's basketball team. Excited to see how they do in the Big Ten tournament. They've had a fantastic year, so hopefully they can keep it going. And Michigan's softball team has played 3 games since we last talked. First, on Wednesday, they beat James Madison 8-0. And Aaron Hone had a home run and threw a complete game shutout in that game. So fantastic pitching job, and she hit a dinger. So great game for her. Lauren Putz and Ella Stevenson also homered. Putz drove in 4 runs. That was awesome. So a great game, and then they came back Thursday night yesterday, and they had a doubleheader, and they split that. They had a doubleheader against Boston College and Virginia Tech. In the first game, they beat Boston College 7-1. A great game. Hone homered again, and Lily Valamont homered as well. And Indiana Langford had another great game, 2 for 3 with 3 runs, a walk, and an RBI. But then in the nightcap, they played against... Then they played against Virginia Tech. Something about those Virginia teams this year. Virginia Tech is very good. They're 17-2. But they got us. They lost 5-3 in a tough game. Michigan gave up all 5 runs in the very first inning, but then their pitching settled down and shut them out the rest of the way, but they just couldn't get enough runs to pull out the win. So Michigan sits at 18-6. Great start to the season. And let's see, their next game will be against Bryant. Today, actually, maybe while you're watching this, they play at 10 a.m. So check mgoblue.com for the live stats and information to see where you can find any of these games, or just to check out the scores and the stats later on. It's a great website and helps me keep up to date on all the Michigan athletics. But yeah, so that's what's going on. Some great stuff going on in Michigan sports. Not just football and basketball, even though we do love those. All right, now it's time for Question of the Day results. We've got 2 to do because I didn't do a video yesterday morning. Had some family in from out of town. Then got to bed late. Didn't get my video done. Then I had to help that family shove off and get out the door. Then I had to go to my kids' school because their teacher called and there was stuff going on. And then it got late in the day. And let me tell you, YouTube... when you're a small channel starting out with like me, if you release it late in the day, it's just dead in the water. You got to do it early in the day and let it build as much as it can as the day goes on. So anyway, I put out a short yesterday, did the post-game live chat, but today we're back to it. So, question of the day, we have 2 to do. That was my long-winded way of saying we got a couple back-to-back in a row. So first, Wednesday, I asked... who was the best, in your opinion, safety of all time for Michigan? You could choose from Jabril Peppers, Dax Hill, Ernest Shazer, or somebody else. Results are in, and here they are. As you can see here, Jabril Peppers was the winner. He's kind of a tough one because in college, a lot of times he's listed as a linebacker at Michigan, but I always saw him as a safety. I mean, and a receiver, and a return man, and a running back. I mean, he did everything. But in the NFL, he's played mostly safety, so I see him as a safety, and I think that's a solid pick. The dude was so fun to watch. I wish that he would have had a chance to be on Jim Harbaugh's teams longer, and further along in the process, because it would have been fun to see him be a part of a national championship playoff team. But it was fun to watch him at any time because he was an awesome player. I love watching him play. He was so much fun. So I would agree with that choice. But Dax Hill was great and did great in the NFL. He was a fun one to watch. And Ernest Shazer, I loved him. Man, he played nasty. He would knock some heads off. He was a fun one to watch back in the day as well. So great safeties Michigan's had. But yeah, I would agree with Peppers for that one. And now we have one more. So bring the question mark back. Yesterday, I asked, which of the linebackers do you feel most confident in for next season? There's a lot of worry about linebacker. Which linebacker do you feel can't miss? You feel confident and they're going to kick butt? You could pick from Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, Nathaniel Stalling, or Troy Bowles, or somebody else that I'm not mentioning. Results for this one are in, and here they are. As you can see here, winner was Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. I mean, look at him in this picture from the dinner, the linebacker dinner. Come on, how do you not feel super confident this guy's going to kick butt? He's awesome. But I think Troy Bowles is a sneaky pick. I think he has been waiting for a chance to be the guy with nobody ahead of him to slow him down. And I think he's going to get an opportunity, and I think he's going to shine. I'm really excited to see what Bowles will do. I'm also really pumped about Nathaniel Stalling. I think that he's a stud. And I think that he's going to be steady and awesome and a leader on the field, and he's going to just be able to shine with this coaching staff. I'm really excited about the linebackers. I'm excited about Chase Taylor. I'm excited about the contributions that Max Alford and Isaiah Moa are going to make. And I really like the freshmen that we brought in as well. I think that they have a chance to do something special too. And I'm excited about what they're recruiting and working on. I think the linebacker room is going to become a strength with this coaching staff before we know it. So I'm excited. Thanks everybody that voted. You guys are awesome. Make sure if you didn't vote on today's question of the day yet, you head over to the community tab after this video and vote. That's going to do it for this episode of the Amazing Bluebeard Podcast. Thank you again for hanging out. You are the best. Love this community. I cannot wait to continue to see it grow. As always, if this is your first time here and you had a good time, consider subscribing. Remember, we're working towards 1,000 subs. And when we get there, we're going to do live stream celebration where you will see my beard dyed maize and blue right down the middle like you see on the logo. But while you're at it, please like. It helps the channel grow and helps this video get pushed out more as well. And if you ever see the hype thing come up, hype it up. And also, please comment. I respond to the comments. Unless you're real nasty, then I might just like it. But this community is actually pretty great. I haven't had to deal with very much stuff. So please leave a comment so I can talk to you down there. I'll see you in the comments section. And I will see you in the next video. And until I do, as always, Michigan fans, go blue.